Hello and welcome into Off the Bench. It's Wednesday. I'm Reid Mouse. It's Mailbag Wednesday, so we'll have a fun show today. Got a fun guest coming on in the 11 o'clock hour. I don't know if it's a tease. I don't know if that's that noise. I don't know if you've officially announced who's coming on yet or if it's still a mystery, Stone.
It's Freddy Benavides. He's coming on. Bench coach for the Cincinnati Reds. We're fired up about it. So yeah,
I didn't know if you were allowing that. If you wanted to keep teasing that off, I was going to let you keep pushing it down the road.
Yeah. I talked about it. I saw our social folks were teasing it a little bit. There was some people out there that was speculating that maybe it was the GOAT, Joey Votto. Hopefully Sunday we can get Joey on, the GOAT, but not today.
The GOAT. Huh?
Yeah.
The GOAT.
Yep.
I love Joey Votto.
Greatest of all time.
I actually like Joey Votto quite a bit. So I want to make fun of you calling him the GOAT, but I can't do it. I can't do it. But yeah, we've got a fun show for you guys today. No baby yet. Thought maybe yesterday was the day, but we've got to wait a little bit longer. Wait a little bit longer. So that's an exciting time. Just waiting on that one. You have an exciting night tonight. You're going to the city that never sleeps, Indianapolis.
Yeah.
You know what the nickname of Indianapolis is?
Huh.
Circle City.
Really?
Because they have a bunch of roundabouts. That's literally it. It's called Circle City. But you're going to watch some association.
Yeah, a little Bulls-Pacers action. Pacers are absolutely horrible. Bulls in purgatory, about 500 here at this point. So we'll check out that game tonight. Last time I was in Indianapolis, we got robbed. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
You got
again.
robbed?
Not me personally. So at the other place, we went for the combine, and we were staying in a house, a bit of a shady area, I would say. And then we come back for dinner, and windows are broken, laptops are gone, cameras are gone.
Oh, my gosh.
So, yeah, not great. None of my stuff got taken, though, but I'm hoping for a better trip.
From the Airbnb or from your car?
Airbnb. Yep, Airbnb.
Wow.
Cops showed up. Yeah, it was a whole ordeal.
Do you have to make a statement? Do you have to testify?
I did not. No,
did they ever catch them, or did you just went?
Nope. They were they were like, yeah, this kind of stuff happens here in this area, and we'll keep an eye out. But it really never led to anything. So.
Isn't it? Isn't it funny that when things like that happen, they're just like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like you can't investigate it, right? I mean, right. You can kind of look around and be like, well, they left something behind that we can use that. But other than that, it's just kind of like, well, I guess if they ever get arrested someday, we can pin this on them too. But it's just kind of like, nope, they got away. They got away doing that. But yeah, crazy. So hopefully you do not get robbed.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what we're hoping for.
That'd be bad. That'd be. I've never been robbed. One time on a work trip, I know Sean and Trace had the truck's back window busted in. They left everything. But I guess they were looking for guns. I guess that's a thing. People just leave guns. I guess it was in Tennessee. Maybe they thought maybe it was hunting season. I don't know. I've had my car broken into multiple times, but typically they're just looking for cash. Like I've had like laptops and stuff in there, iPods or AirPods, and not taken, but never fully been robbed. So hopefully that's a streak I keep going. I keep it going. All right, let's break into the show. Your Miami Redhawks, but I'll say as everyone here that lives in Southwest Ohio, because it's the best story going. Our Miami Redhawks, undefeated, win again in another close, nail-biting game. Down at halftime, come back. And the most amazing thing about it all is we've known this is obviously they're one of the two remaining undefeated teams in the country. It's a fantastic story, one that will continue to get coverage nationally. We're seeing Travis Steele go on national podcasts, national shows. We're seeing the Redhawks talked about on SportsCenter, which is amazing for Miami University, for Southwest, for college basketball, because it is truly a great story. They keep winning these great games. Like, they are must-watch television. And now, they are drawing a crowd. Listen, if you've been to Millett Hall, if you've been to a game for the Miami Redhawks basketball team, at any time in the past other than when Ron Harper was there or when Wally Zerbiak was there, Millett Hall, admittedly, has been a little light on the crowd. And last night, in the midst of a blizzard, in the midst of below zero temperatures, 10,000 showed out to Millett Hall. And it's a reminder of how great that campus can be, how great that alumni base can be, and how awesome it is, and how truly joyous college basketball can be. The Redhawks in the NIL era are primed to be really good in a lot of sports. You know, we sometimes get made fun of on this show, but we talk about the NIL, and when it comes to college football, for the last 20 years, the South had ruled it, and really before that. But the SEC in the 2000s had ruled college football. NIL comes along, and these northern teams start dominating. And in fact, the only teams in the South that can keep up are ones that are filled with oil money. Texas A&M, Texas Tech, schools like that. Well, here we are. We know that your alumni base matters, i.e. Indiana. I think they've got the largest alumni base in the country, and they turned around the worst college football program in the NIL era. Well, Miami has a great NIL a great alumni base, which and then is feeding a really good NIL collective to where in the Mid-American Conference, in the MAC, Miami can dominate that sport at multiple levels in multiple sports, that entire conference. I don't think will we see undefeated streaks like they're currently on? No. But in football, in basketball, even baseball, where they were really good last year in baseball too. We are going to continue to see these Red Hawks dominate the MAC. And there's some other questions that can come out about what happens with Travis Steele and where this goes. But Miami University was made for this era of college sports. A mid-major with that generates great alumni, very successful people, that has a proud tradition in sports, and it matters to them. I've admittedly have made the stance that because of the crowds that you'd see at Millett Hall, because of the crowds you'd see at the football games, and I was like, man, would Miami be the same school if they didn't have athletics? Like the students. I mean, Stone, you went to Miami University. How many games did you attend in person in your 4 years there? That you weren't working.
Yeah, a handful. I mean, I went to the Maxon games. We'd show up for some basketball games occasionally, but when I wasn't working the games, it wasn't like I was, it's a home game, we're there. And I'm watching last night on TV. A little bit jealous, honestly. I mean, hearing a crowd pop through the TV at Millett Hall, I mean, that place was rocking. I had a buddy that was there. He was like, he couldn't believe it either. So, yeah, totally different. And in only a few years, how quickly they've got it turned around. So, hopefully it's here to stay.
When I was in college, I went to Brick Street on a Saturday when Miami was playing OU. Outside of UC, or maybe inside of UC, I don't know. It's one of their two biggest rivals, depending on who you ask. OU. And on the big TVs at Brick Street, didn't have the game on.
Yeah.
They had other college football games on. Did not cross the biggest bar there to like, hey, they're playing their rival. Maybe we should turn on the Redhawks playing OU. Nope. Okay. But yes, 10,000 showed up to Millett Hall, and it shows. I was talking to someone at Miami University, and they were just speaking and glowing about the NIL and how the school is committed, not just the athletic department. The school is committed to really making Miami athletics great once again, as if they weren't great for an extended period of time, because Chuck Martin's done a great job. Their basketball program's been in and out, but their baseball program's been in and out. But this is a very proud athletic base, and, man, the job that Travis Steele is doing is truly great. And he's going to be talked about getting some big-time jobs, which I think is going to be in the mailbag later. Little tease. All right, let's talk about another head coaching job. Joe Brady announced yesterday that formerly the Bills OC, now promoted to being their head coach. Joe Brady was a name that we threw around here in Cincinnati quite a bit. Anytime that we would talk about, we got to fire Zach Taylor, we got to get rid of Zach Taylor, on the short list of names was Joe Brady. There's a connection to LSU there, right? He was the quarterback's coach for Burrow, right?
I think that's what people have been saying. Yeah,
correct. And obviously, he's done a pretty good job in Buffalo as the OC. And time will tell what happens with Joe Brady, as the head coach of the Bills. They're obviously primed to be a successful team. I wouldn't bet against them. But I'm left here wondering about the process. Because in my brain, this doesn't make a lick of sense. The Bills hire from within. They hire their OC despite the team, the owner, the GM saying they need to go in a different direction. Listen. When you hire from within, when you fire a candidate, when you fire leadership and you hire from within, it's typically because you had incompetent leadership. I don't think there's a soul, I don't think there's a soul outside of maybe lunatic, the guys that jumped through the tables in Buffalo. I don't think there's a soul that thinks Sean McDermott was incompetent. He was a good coach. They did a lot of winning. Just couldn't get over the hump. And that happens. I don't blame the Bills for firing Sean McDermott. But that's when you hire from within, is when you have an incompetent coach and you're like, all right, we hire from within. We see this competency. We like what this OC does, but when you can't get over the hump, it's typically you're saying like, we kind of got to look elsewhere. We need someone else to come in here, get a fresh set of eyes, and change the thing. Hiring from within, after the statements that the owner has made, the statements that Bean, the GM, has made, it doesn't make any sense. Any sense. And there's probably the reason that they're going with Joe Brady. He probably wasn't their first choice. But you look around and you go, all right, well, it's either between Joe Brady. We're gonna have to hire an OC. All the experienced coaches that have had success in this league are either taken, don't want the job, or are mired in some sort of controversy. So you look around and like, we're going to have to hire a guy for his first time head coaching job, and let's just hire the beast we know. But still, that just doesn't make any sense. Because when you can't get over the hump, you go in a new direction. I don't see the benefit in firing Sean McDermott, who is a good coach. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think there's people that would argue that he's not a good coach. And you just go, all right, we're going to keep the same thing going. It was just the guy at the top. That's just what we needed to do. Just gotta screw in that. We just got to tighten that squeaky wheel at the top, and we're gonna be making it to AFC Championship games and Super Bowls and winning Super Bowls. Stone, we talked a little bit about this in our pre-show meeting, our extensive pre-show meetings. I don't get this process. This doesn't make a lick of sense to me, and I'm glad that I'm spoiling your take on this, but I'm glad we are aligned in this way because, man, when this news comes out, you're just like, what? How does that make sense? You're staying from within?
Yeah.
Do you have any can you shed any light on why they might do this?
Yeah, no, I don't get it either. I mean, hearing their owners speak, Pagula, and being the GM, one of their main points, or Pagula's main points, was that, we've been a part of so much heartbreak here in the postseason, and we're just looking for someone new to come in. Well, then why are you promoting the guy that's been a part of so much heartbreak, right, and is an unproven head coach? I understand he's got a good relationship with Josh Allen, but there were some Bills people halfway through this year questioning whether Joe Brady was the right guy calling the plays. And now he's going to be their head coach. So it just kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit. I think they made the decision. Pagula was like, you know what? It's time. We're going to fire McDermott. They fire him, and then they're looking around like, oh, crap. Harbaugh's already taken the Giants job. Oh, Tomlin doesn't want to coach. Minter's going to Baltimore. What are we going to do here? Who are our best options? Well, Joe Brady might be our best option. Let's just promote him. So that organization, people make fun of the Bengals all the time, rightfully so. I think McDermott and Allen's greatness have kind of hidden a little bit just how dysfunctional Buffalo really is. You're starting to see it a little bit with the owner addressing the media a couple of weeks ago. Now they make this decision, and you're sitting there going, do they know what they're doing here in Buffalo, or are they ruining the prime of an elite quarterback's career too in Josh Allen? So I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm glad. Well, we're talking about Josh Allen. Josh Allen had sway in this. He had pull. He was a part of the coaching hiring process. And I think this is a cautionary tale on looping in your superstar into big decision makings, and I get it. I get it. The Bills are selling out and probably have a wait list on their season tickets because of Josh Allen, and they're in a period of success that can only be matched by their early 90s 4 Falls of Buffalo that they have never seen before. And it is in a great part because of Josh Allen. But reminder, he's a player. That's his job. He doesn't have to worry about, hurting dudes' feelings like the guy he spends a lot of time around in Joe Brady. And I'm sure Joe Brady's and Josh Allen's relationship has a great deal of why he gets this job. I love Joe Burrow. If we fire Zach Taylor, I don't want Joe Burrow having a big say on who we hire. That's not Joe Burrow's job. It's not. I want Joe Burrow to continue to be the best passer in the league. That's his job. Josh Allen, you can continue being one of the most gifted players that I've seen play the sport. That's your job. It ain't hiring coaches. Yeah, I want a good culture fit. I want you to like the coach. But I don't want you to decide who to do it. And I once again, I'm not in these decision makings. I'm just thinking that probably Josh Allen had a big say like, oh, we got to hire these OCs. Let's just hire the guy that, has made me look really good over the last few years. And this all might work out. I'm not saying that it's not going to work out. Joe Brady, as someone just put in the chat, because we've been calling for it, we'll figure out if that was a good move. And you know what? We'll be talking. If he's a fantastic coach, they go to 2 Super Bowls, they win one, we'll be like, man, we could have got Joe Brady if we just fired Zach, because he would have came here. But I just don't agree with the process. Because like I said, how I started this take was this. When you get rid of leadership and hire from within, it's typically because of incompetent leadership. Sean McDermott was not incompetent. The process in which you hire, if you do get rid of Sean McDermott, is you say, we kind of just need to go in a little bit of a different direction because what we were doing wasn't working, wasn't good enough to get over the hump. And where did you go? You went down the exact same path you were going. And maybe it works, but at the moment of January 28th, the year of our Lord, 2026, the process doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. All right.
Real quickly, Reader, one other thing.
Yep.
With Joe Brady, it's not like he's in a spot where, make the playoffs, win one playoff game. Like, he's got to get to the Final Four in year 1. Like, he's got to win right here, right now, and he's got to win big. A lot of these other, even, you could argue mentor. I don't think the expectation there is quite as high as it is in Buffalo. Like, McDermott was winning playoff games. He just wasn't winning enough. So, I don't know. It seems far-fetched that he's going to be able to achieve these expectations, certainly in the short term.
Yeah, I know. It's that's a good it's a fair question. What is the gauge of success for Joe Brady?
Like, he's got to get to the conference championship.
That's it, right? Like, if they do what they've been doing, be good. Win 11 games, 12 games. Get in, dominate the wild card round, or win the wild card round, as they've done now for 7 years. They get to the divisional round and lose, get bounced, lose to Patrick Mahomes, lose to Joe Burrow, lose to whoever. Does that appease the appetite of Bills fans? Because I'm telling you, the take that I'm having right now, that it just seems like they're the same path, going down the same path, that would be what would happen. And the vicious Buffalo sports radio that we have known to love, they'd be all over it, man. It feels like it was a chance, or at least what you do is you go in a different direction. Going down the same path doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm keep saving my take here by just saying, like, it might be gangbusters. It might work beautifully, and if that happens, bravo to the Bills. You saw something in a young OC that you're like, man, you can do this job at a high level. We just want to give you the job. But it doesn't feel like that's what happened. It feels like what Stone said. They got to a point where they fired Sean McDermott because it wasn't working. They looked around, and they said, well, all the options that we wanted are gone, and now we're going to have to choose between Joe Brady or some other OC or DC that has never coached before. And they went with the safest option. All right, let's get the mailbag. Final 33 minutes here on the show.
All right, here we go. First mailbag question. Deer off the bench. Some Bengals fans are saying they want to cut Orlando Brown Jr. It would free up a lot of money. What are your thoughts on getting rid of OBJ? And that comes in from Linus. Wonder who that could be.
Linus.
Yeah. Huh.
Linus. No last name? Just Linus?
Just Linus.
Linus.
Interesting.
Huh. Okay, so do we cut Orlando Brown? He's a name that has been thrown around here. And it would be an attractive proposition in another year. Here's the thing. Can we get better tackle play by looking elsewhere? Yes. Is there a looming hole on this team that is left tackle in the coming years? Yes. We'd save what, 12 on the cap, right? If we cut OBJ,
I believe.
Can you get an exciting player for 12 million? Not just a left tackle, because you're gonna have to spend more for a left tackle. But can you get an exciting player for $12 million for the defense? Yes. The problem is this team has too many deficiencies, too many holes, to where there is a big problem in the future about what we do on that line again. It was the problem for the past few years, or at least right after our 2 years of success. The main objective was we've got to fix this offensive line. And that problem is going to come around. I don't know what we do at left tackle in the future. But for right now, Orlando Brown is fine. He is exactly what we're paying him to be. He is getting paid about league average for a left tackle, a little above it, and we're getting about league average play for him. I do not want to create another hole. I do not want to create another hole in solving a problem that isn't there right now. So while it is an attractive proposition, while it is a problem that is looming large for the Bengals in the near future, it's not a problem we have right now. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there, which is likely next offseason. Your thoughts on cutting Orlando Brown?
Yeah, I said 12. I checked. It is actually 14.2. So that is a sizable amount of cash that you could certainly open up as it relates to the cap for Cincinnati if you were to move off them. But you and I are in alignment here. If this was a different year, if Shamar Stewart, Barrett Carter, Demetrius Knight, if just one of those guys weren't bums, then maybe we could say, you know what, we can actually address this now. But the defense is so bad. All your time, resources, energy need to put towards that, and I agree. You can't open up another hole at this point. Feels like this is Orlando Brown's last year as a Cincinnati Bengal. We talk about wanting to get defense in the draft and free agency. Sure, I wouldn't be opposed to taking a tackle in the second, third round, hoping that he can be, your tackle of the future. Maybe you move Mims over to the left side next year or 2 years from now. We'll see. I'd certainly be open to that, but at this point, you have that continuity, as Duke likes to say, that collaboration.
Love that.
Oh, yeah, great words there. Along your offensive line, they played great second half of the season. Why mess it up? He was average. Was he great? No. Was he the player that you thought he was going to be when you signed him? I think before the injury 2 years ago, he was having a really good year, and last year before he was hurt certainly was. 2 years ago, I should say. And then last season, good enough, but not great. False starts. Doesn't really have any mobility, but I don't think you're in a spot this year to move off him. But picking his replacement in the draft is something I'm open to.
I feel very confident in saying next offseason this will be the biggest thing that we have to address, regardless of how the season goes. Like, we could have another horrific defensive season to where we're talking about, all right, whatever we did this offseason didn't work, let's try again and do something else. We're going to be cutting players and signing new ones and drafting more defensive players. But I feel incredibly confident saying that we've got to figure out the tackle situation next offseason. But as I said, that's a problem for next offseason. Let's not start another hole in the boat before we plug the other ones. Next question.
I see the Bengals keep getting paired with the cornerback out of Tennessee, McCoy. What are your thoughts on all this? And that comes in from Pigpen. So we had a Linus and then a Pigpen. I'm starting to see a theme here.
I do see the theme. All right. What are my thoughts? Yeah, I keep seeing McCoy. Listen, there's no hiding the fact that I'm going off of what people that cover the draft tell me. And knee-jerk reaction, right? Knee-jerk, this is just me firing from the hip here. And I keep seeing that we're going to take a cornerback with the 10th overall pick. That doesn't whet my appetite. Like that doesn't do much for me. But I'll say this. If the guys that like Caleb Downs, safety, if an edge guy like Bain or Bailey aren't there, when it seems more and more likely that they're not going to be there. If they're not there, the operation in which I want the Bengals to take this draft is take the best defensive player available regardless of position. I don't think there's a single position on the defense that we're like, no, we would feel really great. The one that we probably feel best about is cornerback, but there's not a single position on the defensive side that you're like, you know what, we could probably avoid doing that. We're good for a few years. So if McCoy out of Tennessee is the best defensive player available, then sure, let's go ahead and do that. But yeah, I mean, just knee-jerk reaction. I keep seeing these mock drafts, and every once in a while when I see we're getting a cornerback with the 10th overall pick, I would say it doesn't excite me. It doesn't excite me, but you just take the best defensive player available because everything on the defense can be shored up. Your thoughts, Stone?
I just don't see a world when this draft breaks where he will be the best player available. He's a great corner. I don't think he's cornerback one in this draft. I think McLain out of LSU is. This kid can play, and he's really good, but I agree. You know, you hear the dialogue all the time. Draft the player, not the position. No, draft the position. Either Caleb Downs or a defensive lineman for Cincinnati. So you can never have too many corners. It's going to be fascinating to see what they do with Dax and DJ. Both, of course, can get extensions. Do we feel like the Bengals will give them an extension? Do we feel like they deserve an extension? That's conversations that we can continue to have. You can never have too many corners, as I said, but I don't see a world where McCoy is the best possible player available. Like, you know, is there a world where Bain, Downs, and Bailey are all gone? Yeah. You throw Delane in there too. 4 guys. Like, I don't know. Like, are all those guys going to be gone? You're picking at 10. That'd be really unfortunate if that was the case. But, yeah, if they take McCoy, I think he can be a really good NFL player. It wouldn't necessarily be a bad pick, but I would find myself being very frustrated if they took him.
So would you rather see them take the second tier of edge rusher, right? Not the Bailey, not the Bain, not the guys that keep getting thrown around, or take, you know, like the best cornerback available?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would have to take a look exactly into who is in that tier, but I just feel like there would be a player that I would want over him at that 10th spot. I mean, it's a premium pick. It's a top 10 pick. It's not a top 5 pick, but it's a top 10 pick. And the drafts, as time goes on, continue to get worse and worse. Like, top to bottom, this is not a very good draft. Why? NIL. Kids are staying around longer. Oh, you want $1 million to play whatever at Wake Forest? Yeah, or be a 5th or 6th round pick. Like, you're going to take that here at this point. So, as far as depth of the draft, not as good these days, but still top 10 pick. You can get an elite player. I would have to take a look at, you know, all the edge rushers and that second tier of guys behind Bailey and Bain. But, again, I just feel like there's someone that can bring more value to your team than a corner.
Okay. Fair enough. Next question.
All right. Bill Belichick did not make the Hall of Fame in his first year. What do you guys make of this? Comes in from Woodstock.
Okay, so we're getting Peanuts characters.
Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, we're getting Peanuts characters today. You know what? It's crazy how many people watch this show. From Pac-Man Jones to all of the Peanuts characters and everyone in between.
Are you guys friends?
Me and Pac-Man seems to really like. All right, but before we break into this question, when it comes to Pac-Man, what do you think happened there? Because he tweeted me 4 days ago.
He did.
The clip of me calling him a clown,
yep,
and then immediately agreeing with him. Me calling him a clown.
Yeah.
And then he did it again yesterday, the same video, with 2 more tweets.
Right.
We have suspected in the group chat that the video came across his feed once again.
Yes.
And he thought it was a new video, and he thought I was just bashing him once again. Do you think that's the case, or do you think it just came back into his mind 4 days later? Like, he saw it Saturday, made his tweet, and then it's Tuesday, rolls around again. He's like, you know what? I got to fire off another one.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Something tells me that he saw it again and thought it was a different clip. That's what my gut says.
I agree. I think that he saw that clip and thought that the last 5 days of this show, I've just spent every day calling Pac-Man Jones a clown, which, listen, we don't break into the most diverse range of topics on this show, but we're not doing that one. We're not scraping the Pac-Man Jones clown barrel every single. All right, let's talk about Bill Belichick. Speaking of clowns, Bill Belichick did not make the Hall of Fame in his first year. What do we make? First year eligible. Okay, so I've admittedly flip-flopped on my. Bill Belichick is a Hall of Famer. Bill Belichick is. You wouldn't have to stretch the truth, stretch reality too much to make the rhetoric, to make the debate that he is the greatest coach in the history of not just the NFL but football. And that is very willing to get into the Hall of Fame. Now, the story came out that the reason that they did not elect him in his first year of eligibility is because it's a sort of penance for his 2 cheating scandals, Spygate and Deflategate. And you know what? That's fair. That's fair. Across all Hall of Fames, obviously I like talking about the Baseball Hall of Fame quite a bit. When you cheat, you either don't get in at all or they make you wait a little bit. And Bill Belichick cheated twice. I think we forget about just the cheat. Like, I was just reminded when I was talking about this, and I told Stone this, and he didn't even know that. You remember the Deflategate scandal? Like, I forget that Tom Brady destroyed his phone, destroyed the evidence of. It happened so long ago, and it was such a blip on the world and how fast the world and the stories of the world are constantly changing that I completely forgot about Deflategate. And Tom Brady, they're like, hey, can we see the text between you and whatever the deflator guy's name was? He's like, oh, no, I can't. I destroyed my phone. Smashed my phone. It's like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't look suspicious at all, Tom. All right, 4-game suspension. We'll see you in the net playoffs next year. Like, I think, we are overly forgiving about you. Like, we call Tom Brady the GOAT, despite that. We don't do that in other sports. But I don't know. I think it's fair. Bill Belichick will get in the Hall of Fame. And we talk about this all the time when it comes to baseball. What's it matter if you're in the first ballot or the second ballot? What does it matter? I don't care. Bill Belichick's going to get in the Hall of Fame. He'll get in next year. If they want to do penance for cheating twice, and we know this too, when you're an asshole, when you're a dick, I don't even know what I'm allowed to say on this show. When you're those things, you don't get treated with the most grace in the world. Brian Kelly isn't going to get a big-time job anytime soon because he's burnt every bridge he's ever walked across. Bill Belichick has burnt every bridge he's ever walked across. Curt Schilling, he should be in the Hall of Fame. He's not because he's an asshole. So the standard, whether you like it or not, is there. You cheat, and on top of that, you don't treat people all that kind. You don't get in the Hall of Fame right away. And then, not to keep drawing the parallel, because they're 2 wildly different things between baseball and football. Barry Bonds, famously, one of the biggest jerks in the history of the sport. Also, probably, maybe, the greatest player that ever played the sport. Not in the Hall of Fame. He never failed a steroid test. He never once failed a drug test from the MLB. Now, we know he took steroids. I mean, you can just look at his body, all the stories that come out. We know he did. David Ortiz. He did fail a steroid test? He was in the Mitchell report. He got into the Hall of Fame. David Ortiz was a nice guy. Treated people pretty well. Gets in. Whether it's fair or not, that's the way the world works. Bill Belichick will get in the Hall of Fame. But I don't mind. I don't mind him having to pay penance for a year for A, being a jerk everywhere you go and creating a clown show to Chapel Hill, and then B, for cheating twice. By the way, I mean, we forget that Cincinnati was a part of one of those cheating scandals. Yeah. Stone, your thoughts on Bill Belichick not getting in?
Yeah, look, I agree with you. When I came across the wire, I chuckled was the first thing I did. And if you go anywhere on the internet or you tune into national TV, everyone's going to be all up in arms. This is ridiculous. How is Bill Belichick not in? Yada, yada, yada. And look, I don't want the Pro Football Hall of Fame to go where the Pro Bowl's going, right? I think that should be, it's the Hall of Fame. It's a big deal. And when you break it down to the studs, like he won all these Super Bowls, people say he's the best coach of all time, even though Nick Saban's a little bit better. He probably should be first ballot, but I agree. Like, this isn't a situation where the report came out, oh, Bill Belichick banned from the Hall of Fame. No, he's going to get in next year, right? He'll be fine. But I totally agree with you. If you're in a spot where you're a jerk to everybody, you're not a nice guy, you've been involved in 2 cheating scandals, right? You're a part of a mess and embarrassment at North Carolina, you're dating someone younger than me, and you're in your 70s, like the list just kind of goes on and on. Like, I don't really, you know what? Should have been a little bit nicer, right? Maybe shouldn't have cheated a couple of times. Maybe should, not hang out with people that are 24 years old when you're in your 70s. I don't know. He's allowed to do whatever he wants, but I'm just sitting here like, And it's kind of funny that the people voting on him or voting on this are like, you know what? Yeah, we're good, right? But apparently Bill Polian had his hand in this. Like, I respect that. They don't like him.
Legacy. Glory. Those are things that aren't handed out by you. They are handed out by the people around you. Your legacy is in the way that people talk about you, what you achieve, and those things. And I don't even know how I'm crafting this, but when that's the case, in the Hall of Fame is nothing but just legacy. It's just like, yeah, you are a part of the history of this game. And you are a major part of this. And you might be the greatest coach ever. You're at the will of the people that's job is to record the history of this game. The writers, the media. Their job is to be the collective memory of the sport. And that's why they are tasked with deciding who goes. And the players, former player, I think they have something to do with the Hall of Fame. I don't know exactly how the NFL Hall of Fame voting goes. I know how baseball goes, but I don't know how the NFL does. They are in charge of creating the collective memory. And I don't think we can skip by the fact that this team got caught twice for cheating, once in the postseason. We can't just ignore that. And I saw someone saying, comparing what Bill did to steroids as rage baiting, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but they are both cheating. They are both cheating. And to say that I have a hard take on this either way, it would be not true. It wouldn't be true. I really don't care. If he got in, sure, it's great. He's going to get in next year. I have no problem with them making Bill Belichick wait a single calendar year, 365 days. Because guess what? In 2 years, no one will remember that Bill Belichick had to wait a year. But for a few days, he's going to have to squirm and get pissed off that he's not in the Hall of Fame. And that's probably a fair punishment for cheating throughout your career and treating everyone like a dick. That's a fair punishment. Because I think we can agree that the first time around that punishments were handed out, they weren't sweeping enough. So, just want to take next mailbag question.
All right. Of the 3 remaining jobs, Browns, Cars, Raiders. Rank them. And, we got some breaking news.
Oh, no.
As one of those jobs is no longer open.
Oh, no. Who got the job?
The Cleveland Browns are hiring Todd Monken. as their next head coach, offense coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Thoughts on that? I wonder how his essay went. I wonder what his grade was on his essay.
That is, isn't it? So quick thing before I get to the Todd Monken thing. So the Browns, they're clearly all in on analytics, data driven, kind of being an organization, right? They had the Harvard grad Kevin Stefanski, or not Harvard, but Ivy League grad Kevin Stefanski. They had Andrew Berry, who I do think went to Harvard. He was at Ivy League as well. And they're making them take personality tests. They're making them do essays to see how they align with the organization. And I commend them. I commend the Browns for looking at this and going, we've got to figure out a way to get a competitive advantage, as all teams do. We've got to figure out a way to get a competitive advantage in this sport. I'll say this when it comes to football, as opposed to baseball. One, analytics work in baseball, and they do work because there's 162 games, to where the variables kind of even themselves out and the mean falls to wherever you're, like the projections fall to, how things work out. In a 16, there's a lot of variance. So strictly working on numbers and things of that nature in football isn't going to grade or give you the best results because it's a 17-game season. Secondly, when it comes to analytics and trying to do this data-driven thing, which, by the way, commend the Browns. They're trying something here. They're going for it. You got to be a little cautious because I bring this all the time with when it comes to baseball, and there's a clear divide when it comes to the Reds fan base about like the analytically driven crowd and then the guys that like really like what Tito's doing, right? And I what's my take is that strong leadership matters. I don't think that there's a single sport where strong leadership matters more than football, because it's a bloody game. I mean, they're gladiators, man, and you got to be hard-nosed, and that's got to factor into decision-making in some capacity, and I just don't know how much analytics can apply for, the killer instinct that takes to be a great defensive football player and those things. So that's it. Todd Monken to the Browns. Sure, right? Like, what do you want me to say? Like, yeah. I mean, that's about where you think we're the Browns. Good luck to Todd Monken. I'll say this when it comes to the Browns, as we're going to get into ranking these jobs, and I'll still rank the Browns with those 3 jobs. The most attractive thing about the Browns job, in my opinion, is the bar to be beloved, if that's what you're after. The bar to be thought of so highly in that city is so effing low. It is so low to where if you could rattle off 4 consecutive winning seasons like the Bengals just had that streak ran, and I know that they had a lot of success in the postseason, but Kevin Stefanski won 1 playoff game. You double that, you win 2 playoff games in 5 years and are competent more than you're not, you'll be beloved in that city. And that's such a strong fan base to where I poke fun at the Browns all the time. It is amazing to see how in their fan base is. I've said this before. There are people that I know, close friends of mine that I went to college with, that grew up in northern Ohio, to where 2 things run the table in northern Ohio. It is the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Cleveland Browns. And it is amazing to me that those fans choose to love the Browns more than the Ohio State Buckeyes, because it seems like those are 2 drastically different paths of fandom. I mean, you get one that never loses and one that never wins, and you're going to choose to love the one that never wins. But that's just the way it is in Northern Ohio. I like the Browns more than I mean, not everyone does, but the people that I've been around, they would take Browns success over Buckeyes success any day of the week, and maybe they're just numb to the Buckeyes. But the bar to be beloved in that city is so low. So rank those jobs in terms of football: Cardinals, Raiders, Browns. The number 1 job that I think out of those 3 is pretty clearly the Raiders. Because even though it's a hard division, even though it's a really hard conference, they're going to get Fernando Mendoza. And I have a lot of confidence in Fernando Mendoza, as will that entire fan base. So you're going to start in, and you're going to be hitched to the wagon of Fernando Mendoza from the jump. And if he's good, you'll look really good. So that's number one. So which between the Cardinals and the Browns do I think is a better job? I think you're going to probably disagree with me. I think the Browns are a better job. And the reason is for what I said. The bar to be beloved in that city is really low. The fan base cares. I don't think Cardinals care. Do you know the Cardinals are the oldest NFL franchise? I think they have like 7 playoff wins. They are the oldest NFL franchise, and they have won 7 games in the postseason in their history. It's crazy. Crazy. So, yeah, I'll go Raiders, Browns, Cardinals. But the difference between 1 and 2 is great. The difference between 2 and 3, not great. You ranking these.
Yeah. Real quickly, it kind of feels like it's Cleveland. They're cooked. It's not going to work out for them. Best of luck to them, but not really, I guess. But it kind of feels like a win for the Browns, considering how the past few days have gone. Multiple people saying, we're good. We're removing our name from consideration. So, they seem pretty desperate. It seemed like they were going to end up just promoting Jim Schwartz, which I think would have been a complete disaster. So, given how the past few days have gone, feels like a win for Cleveland. Obviously had a ton of success at Georgia, won 2 national championships as the play caller. Success with Harbaugh. Was a head coach previously at Southern Miss. Now the Giants got to figure out who their OC is going to be, because I think a lot of people expected him to come to New York with Harbaugh and be the OC. But I think, taking it all into account, I think it kind of a win considering how the past few days have gone. But guess who's the best head coach in the AFC North? Not Mike McCarthy, Reid.
Jesse Minter.
Yeah, right. Zach Taylor. So how about that? From worst to first in the AFC North. So that's pretty cool. But, ranking the jobs, I'm in complete agreement. Raiders have to be 1 just because they have the number 1 overall pick, but they got holes everywhere. They're going to be they might have to trade Max Crosby just because they need more players and more picks. That offensive line's terrible. They don't have a coach yet, but it's a really hard division. But just because of Mendoza, I'll put them at 1. And then, I got the Browns over Arizona. The Browns have more pieces in place, and the Cardinals are just kind of a joke. Neither one of those teams know what they're doing at quarterback, but the ownership group, the owner of the Cardinals, is kind of an idiot, and they're kind of in shambles, and that's a really hard division too. So I would take the Browns job over the Cardinals job.
You said not Mike McCarthy. You said Zach Taylor. I just looked this up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since 2020.
Okay.
Who do you think has more wins, Mike McCarthy or Zach Taylor? And reminder, Zach Taylor got an extra year in there.
Right. Well, if you're asking me, I'm going to say Mike McCarthy.
No, it's Zach Taylor. But by one. But by one. It's 50 to 49. 50 to 49. I didn't include postseason success for obvious reasons. But, I mean, listen, you win 12 games 3 consecutive years. That's pretty amazing. Zach Taylor obviously won 12 games in 2022. You can say Zach Taylor's the best head coach in the AFC North, and I'm not gonna argue with it a whole lot. We got to see what happens with Jesse Minter. Zach Taylor's better than Todd Monken, and we got to see. I mean, I said yesterday I think the Bengals are the most primed to dominate this division, at least in the short term. We will see how things fall out. Next mailbag.
All right. Do you think Travis Steele will take a higher-end job based on the success he has had this year? Comes in from Charlie Brown.
I think we've asked this question before, as we've asked a lot of these questions before. It's just the same mailbags keep coming in from different people. Maybe they missed the episode. Do I think Travis Steele gets another job? Man, they just keep winning, dude. It's amazing. I can't. Last time this was asked, I said, no, I could see him taking – he's a Butler guy. He graduated from Butler, so, if that job becomes available, which I think Thad Matta's runs out, but, are you going to take the Butler? I don't think Butler's primed to be really good in the short term. I don't think they're going to be able to compete in the Big East. And I think in the MAC, I think Miami can dominate the MAC. And listen, those are 2 wildly different things. The Big East and the MAC, that's wildly different. If Dayton's job becomes available, that's an incredibly attractive job. UC's not going to hire Travis Steele. He's going to be thought of. It just depends if he wants to move. And I've said in the past, and you've said in the past, that it seems like not being able to make the tournament at Xavier with the support that he had and the rosters he had, and they were ranked almost every year. They were always on the bubble, just couldn't get there, couldn't get over the hump. That's going to play against him. But, dude, they just keep winning. They just keep winning. To where there's going to be jobs elsewhere out around the country that they're going to look at this and like, why aren't we going to hire the guy that's 21-0? Why aren't we going to hire the guy that just won 30 games at Miami University, Ohio? Why aren't we going to do that? And they're going to try and court him. And it's going to be incredibly attractive for Travis to take one of those jobs. So previously I said no. At least I think I said no. Unless, of course, like Dayton comes calling or UC comes calling, which then that's an easy yes because those are better jobs in a local area where you don't have to move. I think he did just move out to Oxford. Like he just built a home out there. And he feels nice and cozy up. But it's going to be really hard to turn down one of these programs that are – they're going to at least call him up and engage his interest. Yeah. To where, like, if you've got any ambition at all, if you've got any drive and desire and fire in you at all, and you're not just cool, and I would advise him, hey, I'll just win my 25 games a year in Miami and maybe dominate the MAC and maybe make the tournament, maybe make some noise and all that stuff. If you got any drive at all, it's going to be really, really, really hard to turn down one of these bigger conferences, especially when you're making 4 times as much money. So I think he's going to get another job. I think he's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Still 10 games left in the regular season. Then, of course, the MAC tournament, and then hopefully some more action beyond that as well. I think if they continue to have this level of success, if they can get to the NCAA tournament, shoot, if they win an NCAA tournament game, like there's going to be big jobs. You see it in college football all the time. There's going to be big jobs that come open, and Steele's got to be at the top of the list if they continue to have success. Now, if they fall off a little bit here, maybe that changes. And, you know, like that UMass team, they're going to get everybody's best shot. We all know this the rest of the way. They've had several close calls here recently. So
that UMass team's good. I know their record isn't great. That UMass team, I know they don't report. UMass thought they're going to be in the ACC. They have a roster. They've spent money thinking that they were going to be playing in the ACC, not the MAC.
Yeah.
So they spent probably more money than anyone in the Mid-American Conference, UMass. They just haven't had the success.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're still dealing with that one of their best players. But go on, you're making a point.
And it's just hard to imagine that somebody's not going to throw him a big-time contract. And we talked about his salary before here on the show. Like, somebody's going to give him millions of dollars if they continue to win, especially if they win a tournament game as well. So, I don't know. And he doesn't, I think he's obviously very proud to be at Miami and what the turnaround he's had. It's not like he's an alum, though. So, I don't know. It feels like someone's going to throw him a big-time job, and it would be very, very difficult to pass up on that.
I don't know if we've talked about the actual money of his job. We looked it up. You can look up. It's a state job. You can look up how much money Travis Steele's making. He's making $500,000 from the university, and he signed an extension to make that much money, and it goes up to like $700,000. It's a lot of money. But I think Richard Pitino's making like $4 million. I think like these big jobs pay a lot more, like a lot more. And I don't know how – I'm sure he's getting some sponsorship deals to where, like, he's getting some money, not under the table, but from other places that aren't just from the school. His paycheck from the school is $500,000 for the year. He's probably making much more than that. But, man, when you start talking some of these bigger numbers to where, like, $3 million or $2.5 million, you're going to make 5 times as much money. You're going to turn that down? You're going to turn that down? Regardless of how comfy and cozy your life is, $500,000, you can live a great life on that. But you're going to turn down $2.5 million? Yeah. It's going to be hard to say no. I think we got time for one more. Do we want to get off for your – because you got the interview at 11:15, right?
Yeah. It's up to you. You want one?
Let's do one more and we'll make it quick.
Which one you want?
We'll do the Andy Reid one.
Okay, here we go. From Snoopy. Snoop! How many more years do you think Andy Reid has left in the tank? Does that job become the most attractive job in decades?
It's a really good question. Thanks, Snoop. That's a really good question. I don't know, man. Andy Reid could retire at the end of next year.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yep.
Andy Reid could be the coach for 5 more years. Would not surprise me. I think Andy Reid will want to go out on top. How many wins is he away from the all-time win record? It's not many. It's like two or three seasons. He might go for the all-time win record. He might go for one more Super Bowl. And if he wins, he's out. And that job will become incredibly attractive. Patrick Mahomes, a great GM, becomes incredibly attractive. If you want me to put a betting line on it, if I said he is the coach for 2.5 more years, are you taking the over or the under?
It's a good question. It kind of feels like 3. I think he's 67, out at 70. He's a football guy. He loves it. He understands what he has at quarterback. So wouldn't surprise me if he was done after 1 year, but I feel like 3 is kind of the magic number.
Okay. So you'll take the over? I'll take the under. I think if they win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, he's out. If they have a disaster season in the next 2 seasons, I think he's out. He's either going to go out on his back or going out on top. But if they do something where they win 12 games, AFC Championship game, he'll come back for another year. I'll take the under. All right, I got to get off the show. Stone Shield Show coming right up. He's got a great interview with Freddy Benavides in about 10 minutes. Thank you, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully. Maybe I won't. But the plan is to see you guys tomorrow. We'll see if the little bundle of joy continues to agree with that. See you guys.
All right, here we go. Welcome into the Stone Shield Show. We are here. It is Wednesday, January 28th. Appreciate you guys making us part of your day. And lots to discuss on today's show. We got a special guest coming up in about 10 minutes, Reds bench coach Freddy Benavides. He will be joining us here on the show, so looking forward to that conversation. We'll talk some spring training stuff. We'll ask him about Sal Stewart, Elly De La Cruz, Spencer Steer. We'll ask him about Joby Votto, certainly there as well. So looking forward to that conversation with Freddy coming up in about 10 minutes. Also, we spent a great deal of yesterday's show kind of laying out our mock Bengals offseason, talking about about what Paul Dehner Jr.'s got up on The Athletic. The calculator that he always puts together says that the Bengals, you can anticipate them spending about $35 million against the cap this offseason. And I said that I didn't have a final draft yet. Well, went home, did some research, figured some stuff out that I do have a final draft that I will share with everyone. This is the first edition. All right, we're sitting here. It's January 28th. Haven't even played the Super Bowl yet. This is the first iteration. I like it, but I don't love it. Some of the numbers didn't match up exactly how I wanted. A little spoiler alert. Have the Bengals bringing back DJ Reader, which you can't help but think about Von Bell and how it's like, oh, that's great. Von Bell's coming back. Let's go. And then it didn't really work out. So I'm not necessarily gung-ho about that, but I do think they need different new bodies along their defensive line. So we'll talk about the final draft that I have on today's show a little bit there as well. The Miami Redhawks. Unbelievable. They win again. They are 21-0. Have not lost a basketball game. They're in action once again on Saturday at home, Millett Hall. And I used to work at a lot of these games. I even went to a few just as a fan, just because, I like sports, whatever. I showed up. I was a student. But to see the crowd pop or to hear the crowd pop through the television set, unbelievable. Right at Millett Hall, and you're looking around, it's like sort of filled out, and you're like, what's going on? They sold out. They're selling out on Saturday as well, which is just unbelievable what Travis Steele has been able to do this year. Hopefully we can get Coach Steele back on the show. We had him on when they were like 4-0, 5-0, and now obviously they've captured the attention of a lot of people nationally and find themselves with a record of 21-0, and they're ranked 24th in the nation. And it wasn't easy last night at all. UMass was actually leading for much of that game. But a resilient group. No Skowjak. Obviously, he was out with an illness. Psarro, of course, has been out for a long time now with the knee. And it's just next man up. They continue to go. They play a lot of freshmen. They got a leader out there on the floor general, and Peter Suter, who's not a point guard, but kind of what they asked him to do last night. Without Skowjak, he had a nice game. And then Elmer, just unbelievable, shooting the rock, the 30 ball. At Millett Hall last night. So that was incredible to watch. Some more news in the NFL. Joe Brady has been hired as the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk about that. It was a bit of a head scratcher for me. He's a respected guy. Obviously, a lot of people in this town have thrown out the name of Joe Brady, considering his ties to Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase back in 2019. But some of the sentiments the owner had, Pagula, their GM Bean, how they wanted kind of a fresh start, a new face in the building, someone that hadn't been attached to some of the heartbreak that has transpired in recent years. Well, Joe Brady's been here for much of that, and he gets promoted to head coach. So a bit of a head scratcher there for me. Apparently Josh Allen had some say. Interesting to know how much say Josh Allen had here in this decision. But we'll talk a little bit about that. If we have time, we'll hit on the Belichick stuff, the world, the internet. I'm sure national shows are erupting at this point about Bill Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Famer. I wasn't really too worked up about it. My only concern is you want the Pro Football Hall of Fame, like that needs to be valued at a very high level. You don't want it going in the same direction that, for instance, the Pro Bowl is going, or a guy like Shedeur Sanders is going to a Pro Bowl after the year in which he had. Bill Belichick's going to get in. This report wasn't, he's banned from the Hall of Fame. He's never getting in. He just wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. Should the best NFL coach of all time be a first ballot Hall of Famer? Probably, right? But I didn't get as worked up about it as everyone else. Maybe we will save that for tomorrow, but if we have some time, we'll touch on it today. Also, some breaking news when we were live on Off the Bench. The Cleveland Browns have decided that they are going to hire Todd Monken as their next head coach, and just some immediate thoughts on that. Kind of feels like a win for Cleveland considering how the past few days have gone. Obviously, they would have liked another one of these candidates, right? Even a Mike McDaniel, who he pulled his name out. Obviously, a Harbaugh. You couldn't have a Stefanski, obviously, because he was their previous coach. But maybe even a Robert Saleh. Like, there's several names that they would rather have. Hafley, certainly, I think, falls into that category there as well. But considering how the past few days have gone, multiple people taking their name, removing their name from consideration as their next head coach, and it kind of felt like they were destined just to promote Jim Schwartz, and that would have kind of been a disaster, in my my opinion. They get a guy in Todd Monken. He's a respected guy. I think he can bring some stability to the table. Won a couple of national titles as the play caller at Georgia. Had a lot of success as the OC with Harbaugh in Baltimore, which, by the way, now the Giants got to figure out who their OC is going to be, which is huge with a non-play calling head coach. I think it was a foregone conclusion that Monken would just be following Harbaugh over to New York and be the OC. Obviously not happening with Monken taking the job in Cleveland. So considering how the past few days have gone, feels like a win, has some head coaching experience, has been in the league for a long time, was actually the OC for the Cleveland Browns in 2019, I believe. But my biggest takeaway is Harbaugh's out, Tomlin's out, Stefanski's out, and you fill them with Mike McCarthy, Jesse Minter, and Todd Monken. You'd be feeling pretty good if you're the Cincinnati Bengals here in the AFC North. But we'll spend a little bit more time talking about that as we progress. Freddy Benavides in about 3 minutes from now. Looking forward to that conversation. We'll invite everybody to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We have a lot to offer here at Chatterbox Sports. We got our daily shows here, Reid and I, each and every day during the week. Exciting plans there for those shows as we continue here, and obviously home to Chatterbox Reds, the #1 Cincinnati Reds podcast in the world. Also Chatterbox Bengals there, of course, as well. Got a great group, Craig Sandlin, Nick Kirby, Mike Hart, and others that do a tremendous job. Also got some great social media people behind the scenes, helping us out. So if you could hit that subscribe button, help us get to 22,000 subscribers, would be greatly appreciated. And if you check out the podcast, even if you're watching live, if you go find our podcast, give us a 5-star review. That really would go a long way for us here at the show. Before Freddie hops on, I do want to talk about my final draft a little bit. Not going to be able to get to all of it here at this point, but we will kind of break it up a little bit. We'll do it for a couple of minutes. We'll talk to Freddie, and then we'll kind of finish it off here. But with the Bengals, talked about this yesterday. Spent a great deal of time yesterday on the show kind of breaking down the Bengals mock offseason. Paul Dehner Jr. at The Athletic has been doing this now for 5 or 6 years, and which has been really incredible for him to do. And obviously you go through the Bengals offense, you go through the defense, and really offensively it doesn't feel like many changes need to be made. You feel pretty confident about where this offense is at with the skill players in which you have. Do you bring back a Joe Flacco? He's going to want to wait this thing out a little bit longer, of course, and see if any team has interest in him being a head coach. What do you do at the backup quarterback spot? And then what do you do at the right guard spot? And those are really the two biggest questions at this point. So we'll get into my final draft after we had this conversation with the Reds bench coach, and it is my pleasure to welcome in Freddy Benavides, and he is the bench coach for the Cincinnati Reds, also the field coordinator there as well. Freddy, how's it going, man? Appreciate you stopping by.
Everything's gone good, man. Getting ready. A couple weeks away.
Pretty exciting. Where are you at right now? It's pretty cold here in Cincinnati. I was driving in. It was -2 is what my car said. Where are you at right now? Are you a little bit warmer than that?
I'm back home in Texas, back home in Laredo, Texas. We had that storm hit here, but nothing bad like you guys. It was only about 40 degrees here, so it's not too bad.
I got you. Well, there you go. I appreciate you stopping by here on a Wednesday. We really appreciate it. But let's just kind of dive in here. Season 13 for you on the Reds coaching staff, and also season 34 in the Reds organization. Of course, last year, Brad Mills was in place there as well. You both were kind of on that bench coach role. He has since retired, and you're also the field coordinator for the Cincinnati Reds there as well. Can you kind of take us behind the scenes a little bit? I don't think the average fan necessarily understands what exactly your role looks like. How involved are you when it comes to game planning and also the team's use of analytics there as well?
Well, it's a little bit of everything. As a field coordinator / bench coach, you're the eyes and ears behind the scenes and helping Terry with everything that he needs behind the scenes, taking care of especially the fundamentals, especially the game, the defensive part of me as the infield guy, help run spring training with Kyle, and just kind of put things together, just kind of like help Terry in everything he needs, from the clubhouse to the field, on the game itself, trying to manage the game myself while he's doing it. And just in case something happens, I'm ready to go. So, of course, the game planning, everything is involved with that before the game.
And you mentioned Tito. What's kind of your relationship like with him, and what was it like being a part of his staff? I'm sure your paths have crossed multiple times throughout your history in baseball, but being on his staff, what was that like, and maybe how is it different from some other staffs you've been a part of?
Well, it was awesome, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a Hall of Fame manager, a future Hall of Fame manager. So it's been awesome learning from him and how he deals with the clubhouse and how he goes about his business and how the relationships he has with the players and how it works. How honest he is. It's a little bit. It's not that it's different from everybody else. I've had good guys that I've worked with. In general, it's just the way the way he does. It's instant credibility that he brings to the table. And guys respond. He just got an uncanny way to talk to the players and talk to us, the staff, and make us feel very comfortable. And like he always does, every day is the most important day. Every game that day is the most important thing of the day.
Spring training, of course, right around the corner. Pitchers and catchers getting ready to report here. What did the next few weeks kind of look like for you in your role, and what's kind of the mindset here going into spring training?
Well, it's like spring training. We got to get the guys ready.
Yep.
I know the team. We have everything kind of set. I don't know what's left in the front office. They're working very hard and trying to see. We're trying to improve the ball club, of course, going into it. But coming to spring training, we know we got to get the pitchers and catchers ready. They get in there first, and then it's just kind of a daily prep of working on everything, our weaknesses, our strengths, and the point of emphasis of what we're trying to accomplish in spring, whether it's the defense, the base running, a little more offense, of course, more contact, whatever it may be that we have in place and that Terry has in place for the guys. That's what we're going to work on a consistent basis.
A guy that a lot of people here in Reds country have a close eye on is, of course, Sal Stewart. Young kid, 22 years of age, came up at the end of last year, had some success, had some postseason success, certainly offensively against the Dodgers. What's kind of your offseason been like with him, some of the work you've done, and what do you kind of expect him to make? Because it kind of, it's his first year, really, first full season in the big leagues, but he's going to need to have a big role for this team. What are some of your expectations for him this year, and what's some of the work you've kind of done with him behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, it was a tough situation for him coming up and then having to learn to play a new position that he's never done before.
Right.
Had to play first base, which was, especially in a race in September and in the playoffs. I think he did a nice job, especially for the limited time he had there. But the offseason's been good. He's been working really hard. I went to go see him in Miami in December. We had a couple of days of work there at first and try to just a crash course, a consistent crash course. And I know he's working with a lot of guys in Miami, Alonso, and I know he's tight with Machado. So just expect him to come in and compete for a job. I mean, nothing's given, right? He's still a rookie. He's got to come in and earn that job and earn his way on that team. And if he does, we expect big things from him.
I think the phrase generational talent probably gets used a little bit too much these days, but I'm going to use it right here with Elly De La Cruz. Obviously, the ceiling for him is at an unbelievable level. I think one thing, obviously, he would like to clean up a little bit is some of the more routine plays on defense. What do you think needs to go right for him in order to be able to do that? Because the spectacular plays certainly are there, and he really is a solid defender, but the error numbers have been up probably a little bit more than what you guys would like. What's key for him making that next step?
Well, the key is for him to being as consistent as possible. His work that he does pregame and his work that he does in the offseason that it comes into the season. This is the guy, like you said, he really improved over the first half of the season last year. I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries this past year that limited somewhat of his range and the way he went about his business and his daily prep. But this is a guy who really, really improved. And I know he had a tough couple weeks really in August and defensively that really put him down, but he was on his way to playing really unbelievable. And just go back and look at history on a lot of great players. Their first couple of years, there's been a lot of errors that were made, and they've turned into great defenders. It's just right now with social media, what it is now compared to what it was in the past. You don't really read about all that stuff that happened in the past with some of the great players, but Elly works hard every day, man. And he, like you said, he's a generational talent. And he knows he has to get better, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Some reports have indicated that Spencer Steer might fall back into more of a utility role this year. Obviously, had a Gold Glove caliber season last year at first base. I was wondering if you could kind of enlighten us a little bit on what went into that decision. Obviously, it's a role he's had previously, before in the past, and what can you do in your role to kind of help him out with that?
Well, I mean, this is Spencer's first couple of years. That was his role basically,
Exactly.
but. Like you said, he did play an outstanding first base. This is when he was. I mean, he was hurt last year, so it limited his time in the outfield. And he really had a lot of work that he did, with Mike Napoli and myself. He really put in a lot of work at first and turned himself into a Gold Glove type defender. Um, right now, I mean, it just depends on what's going to happen. How Sal, where he plays both corner positions, third base, first base, and with Spencer, who's very good at what he does, and he can play the outfield, infield, any infield position basically. Just helps us in general with his versatility. But right now, I mean, he is one of the best defensive first basemen in the game. So that's where I see him right now.
Noelvi Marte, of course, made the transition from the infield to the outfield, and he was really a catalyst for Cincinnati last year, and I think a big reason why the Reds were able to make a postseason push. Tell us a little bit about what that change is like, going from the infield out to the outfield. I think a lot of us kind of expected him to struggle, and obviously he wasn't perfect out there, but it was pretty impressive what he was able to accomplish out there in right.
Definitely. I mean, this is a great athlete. I mean,
Yeah.
This is the speed, and he had the arm strength. He did struggle a little bit at third base, especially with some throwing. But this is a kid who really, really works hard and really wants to do the best on an everyday basis. Um, just in general, as an organization, we felt it was probably best to help us. When we got Keith Bryan, who was a Gold Glover himself, and we needed to improve our defense. And one way was that with the athleticism that Noelvi shows, that the best place would be in the outfield, and he really took to it. He really worked hard with Colin, CC, and Terry gave him a lot of confidence and threw him out there, and it just seemed that his mind was clear. He cleared his mind, and he was able to perform at a better level.
I'm 25 years old, been a Reds fan my whole life, and two of the first players that I really remember falling in love with are Junior, obviously, and Adam Dunn. You actually managed Adam Dunn, I believe, back in 2000 in A-ball. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like, and did you know that year that he was going to be a stud, or did that kind of surprise you a little bit?
Well, no, I mean, this is a kid who's got tremendous power,
Oh,
and back in A ball, you're still years away, right? But I
yeah.
mean, what he showed, his character, how he went about his business, and the confidence that he just showed that he was going to be a major league ball player, and just that power alone, it was unbelievable. And that he was still learning the game. He played every day. His strike zone management was outstanding in A ball. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he might have walked also 100 times, which is back in the day was hard to do in the minor leagues. And he did that along with some of the power. But sky was the limit with Adam. He just needed to post up every day, which he did, and he had a great career.
You played for the Reds, of course, but actually were selected by the Rockies in an expansion draft where all the teams in Major League Baseball had to make some players available. What was that kind of like? Because it's pretty wild for me to look back at that. That had to have been kind of a crazy experience, no?
That was. I mean,
Yeah.
you put together a team just comes from all over. The drafts that happened in the expansion. I thought it was outstanding. I mean, I love Denver in
Yeah.
general. Colorado was a great place to play back in the day. You had 80,000, I think 80 plus thousand record for that was just broken. I guess the game we just played at the Speedway, but it was unbelievable. Uh, the people, the crowd, the fans, the way they every day 4.4 million. The fans were crazy, and we loved it. I have a lot of great friendships with the guys that we played, and it's crazy. It's just the first team, being part of the first team ever. It's been great.
Your former teammate, Reggie Sanders, actually recently inducted into the Reds Hall of Fame. Kind of feels long overdue there, but what was your immediate reaction to getting that news? That had to have been pretty cool.
Oh, that is cool. I mean, this is
Yeah.
a guy I played with back in the day in the minor leagues and in the big leagues. It's outstanding. Reggie was a great player, much deserved Hall of Fame induction this year. It'd be great to see him. I've seen him a couple times on the road when we play in Arizona, so it's going to be great to see him, and he's much deserved, much deserved. He was a great player.
You played obviously a huge role in Joey Votto's career, and he came out with a story recently. I think he was telling The Athletic about how you gave him the nickname OP, which stood for Own Program, and I got a kick out of that story. You've got to have hundreds of Joey Votto stories. Is there one that you could share with us?
Uh, there is hundreds of stories. Joe's his own guy.
Yeah.
It was the OP, and I think he tells us. I think he told that story there in the Athletic.
Yeah.
coaching first base, and he's running around the bag, and I'm saying go, 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 and he thought I said no, no, no. We got into an argument right there on the field, and that's where the word, we got the asshole from. He talks about that. So, but Joey. He's one of a kind, man. This guy but he's unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
I really believe he's a future Hall of Famer and going forward. And this guy's unbelievable. I'd like to probably. There's just a lot of stories, but just keep it right there.
Yeah, that's fair. What made him so great? Because he was so great for so long, so consistent, and he wasn't just a hitter. He was terrific at first base there as well. I'm sure his attention to detail was next level as he continued to try to perfect his craft, seemingly just had a love for hitting the baseball there as well. But take us behind the scenes a little bit. What made him such a good player? Because I agree, he's got to be a Hall of Famer.
Oh, definitely. I mean, this guy from day one in the minor leagues, that's where I saw him. I mean, that's where I had him from day one. The story, the story, he was a catcher / made him a third baseman, made him an outfielder, and finally just ended up at first base. But where he started, where he came, just goes to show you by winning a Gold Glove back in the day. This guy's work ethic is second to none. I mean, even at 40 years old when he was with us this last year, I mean, he outworked all those young guys. And it was a great experience for Elly, Noelvi, all these guys that were there watching him, how he went about his business. A true professional, studied, came to park every day, post. He was just a true professional, knew how to play the game, and he always can hit.
Yeah.
And that was one thing. He always can hit. But he really worked hard in his defense, and you said it earlier, this is a guy who pays attention to details.
Yeah.
Every little thing that's going to help him have success, he did.
You've been in the game, obviously, for a really long time. Some changes have been made in baseball over the course of the past few years, most notably the pitch clock and obviously the ghost runners on second base in extra innings. What are kind of your thoughts on that? Did it take you a while to warm up to that? Do you think it's a good thing for the game? Would you like that to be implemented in the postseason, specifically as it relates to ghost runners on second base? Your general thoughts on those new rules?
Well, I mean, at first, I'm a traditionalist. I really liked the old school of the game itself. But, after that first year, watching how quick the games go and the time clock, I think the guys got used to it. I really like it. I really like it a lot. I think it's been good for the game. The ghost runner, it's exciting. It's exciting to the fans, exciting to us, like the management of the game planning, what you're going to do on the road at home compared to what, how you're going to bunt, who's up, what's next. Everything that comes into that, it's outstanding. That's great. But I still like the postseason to be played without the ghost runner the way it's played. It's true baseball, and I just sometimes it's the luck of the draw how that runner on second who's hitting or what's what part of the lineup's coming up. Sometimes you wish it's the big boys that come up because they're going to swing the bat. They're not going to bunt to get the runner over. So and they strike out a lot more. So it's probably better.
You mentioned bunting there a little bit, and I think there's been a lot of discourse as it relates to bunting in Major League Baseball. What's your stance on that? Obviously, it can be very valuable. Sometimes you're in a position where you might take the bat out of somebody's hands. That can do some serious damage. Do you think that's something we'll see more of from Tito this year? Obviously, he hasn't been afraid to bunt in the past.
No, he's not afraid. I think it's part of the game. Bunting it's an offensive fundamental, and the guys work at it hard in spring training. Now, teams are not bunting quite as much as they did in the past. But I think if you've seen playoff baseball, I think you play the game to what's supposed to be played. If it's meant to bunt, you bunt. Situations arise during the course of the season that guys are hot, depending on what's happening. Situation. Sometimes you want to bunt a runner over. It's the best thing to do. But it's somebody that's really struggling in the 8-hole, 9-hole, whatever it is not swinging the bat. And it's like, do you take two chances to drive the run in? And it just depends on the situation of the game. If it's to win a game late, of course you're bunting. But it just depends on the guy and how many times he's done it. It's something that they preach in the minor leagues now, like to make sure everybody's bunting. So when they come up here, because the situation, they come up. They're not going to be hitting 3-4 in our lineup. They might be hitting the lower part of the lineup, so we might ask them to bunt. So it starts with the minor leagues, and when it comes in here, they've got to keep working on it.
I want to ask you about Key Brian Hayes here, Freddie. Obviously, the Reds made the move in the middle of the year last year to bring him in. And I had seen him play, of course, and you hear about him, play against him when he was in Pittsburgh, obviously. But seeing him down there every day at the hot corner, the things he is able to do really blow you away. Tremendous defender out there on the field. How excited were you when the Reds made that move, and how's it been working with him? Because you've worked with some great third basemen, but defensively, he's got to be at the top or certainly near the top of the list.
Definitely one of the top of the list.
Yeah.
I mean, I was extremely excited when you get a guy like that, especially defensively. You know, you play against him with 13 games a year, and in our division, and watching him, and you don't really get to appreciate it because you go in for a 3-game set, 4-game set, and you play against him. But watching him on a daily basis, how he goes about his business, I always say very similar to Brandon Phillips. I mean, you put that glove on his hand in his pregame, and it was unbelievable, man. These guys go to work. They take their defense just as serious as their offense. And this guy, his work ethic, how he goes about his business, how he prepares, and it shows in the game. I mean, his quickness, his accuracy, everything that comes in, it just made us better last year. You know, when he got here, he just played defense, and it solidified us a little bit more with himself, Mac. And it's good for Elly to learn a lot the way this guy goes about what he's trying to do. So it was great when we got him because our defense really, really improved.
And one question about the pitchers, Freddie. Obviously, you got to be buttoned up in all facets. You got to be able to hit, timely hitting, defense, all important. But it's safe to say, I think, that the identity of this team is with starting pitching. Got several really good dudes and a couple of prospects coming up that you would hope could eventually find their way into that rotation there as well. What's it been like being around those guys? Because that really is ultimately what carried, in my opinion, Cincinnati to the postseason last year.
Well, definitely, that's our strength of our ball club, right? Our starting rotation and our pitching staff in general. Our bullpen was outstanding last year, all season. Guys, like you have Hunter, the 4 or 5, the 4 starters right now that we have, Hunter, Singer, Lodolo, and Abbott. You go against any team and you have a chance to win every single day. Now we got the young kids that have come up in the past. Louder 2 years ago, Burns this year. We have some kids down there that can throw the ball, so it's going to be outstanding. That is our strength, and it gives us a chance to win every day. After 5, 6, 7 innings, we're in the ball game, and it gives our offense a chance to win a game.
And lastly, Freddie, your son Alec, he's an area scout for the Reds, no?
Yes, he is. He works. He lives in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And he's got that area, the Midwest. So I'm excited for him. He's excited. Loves what he's doing.
Yeah. What's that been like? Obviously, baseball has been a huge part of your life, but kind of getting to work with your son a little bit, that's got to be pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I mean, like you said, I managed in Dayton. He was a year old. Yeah. All this time I'm still with the Reds, and now at 28 years old, whatever, that's how old he is, 28. He's working for us now, and it's outstanding to see him, how much he's grown in the game and how much he's learned from all the guys. And he grew up in the clubhouse, basically. Always was around everybody, so nothing really phases him, and he's seen Major League Baseball from up close, and so it's great for him. I think it was a great learning experience, and he's taking it to his job now.
Love it. Absolutely. Well, Freddie, I appreciate the heck out of you, man, making some time for us. I know it's getting busy, getting ready for spring training, but greatly appreciate it and would love to do it again sometime, my friend, and best of luck this year.
Thank you, baby. No problem. Anytime.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care. Freddy Benavides, bench coach for the Cincinnati Reds. That was awesome. We'll get that interview out on YouTube later today. You can find it in podcast form there as well. He's awesome, Freddy Benavides. He's been at it for a long time. I was so fired up when the Reds got Tito, and I'm sitting here going, okay, you got to keep Freddie, and you got to keep Derek Johnson there as well. Those were kind of my two big things where it's like, love having Tito, but let's keep Freddie in place, and let's keep DJ in place there as well. Tito did that. Reds got a great staff here, and a lot of us are certainly looking forward to the season. So certainly appreciate Freddy Benavides. Great stuff from him, and appreciate, obviously, his time here on the show on a Wednesday. Again, that will be out on YouTube a little bit later. We do, I believe, have a super chat from Molly. She wanted me to ask what the ideal lineup would be for the beginning of 2026. I appreciate the super chat, Molly. I don't think Freddie would have given us an answer to that question, but that's all right. Molly, obviously, one of our daily viewers here at the show. We appreciate the heck out of her. Thank you for the super chats. I'm sure Elly would be in that lineup, right? I'm sure Steer would be in the lineup, Stevenson in the lineup. I don't think we would have gotten the order from him, but usual suspects. I don't think he would have caught us too much by surprise there, but appreciate Molly for the super chat. All right, let's get back to this final draft, what I was talking about right before we started talking to Freddy. Again, we did this yesterday, kind of talked through it, and I said, you know what, we're going to get a final draft by the end of the week. Did some stuff last night, did some research, kind of went from there. So, Joe Flacco, starting on the offense, and we'll go across the board here. With Joe Flacco, he's not going to sign right away because he's going to wait around a little bit, see if a team, the Jets or the Dolphins or one of these teams is going to say, hey, Joe, we want you to come in here and start for us week 1. Obviously, he's going to take that regardless of where it is, right? But if that doesn't happen, and he's definitely going to be a backup to start the year, I do think there's a real world where he would be fine and be happy staying in Cincinnati. And you're going to have to pay him a little bit more money than you would for a Case Keenum or a Sam Howell or, some of these other backup quarterbacks. I'm willing to do it, right? So Daner points out $4.5 million against the cap if you bring him back. That's something I'm willing to do because I've said this multiple times on the show. I think you probably make the playoffs if Joe Flacco is immediately taking the ball when Joe Burrow goes down against Jacksonville. I do truly believe that. So Flacco back is a priority. Again, if another team wants him to start, he's not going to be here. But if not, bring him back. The Chase Brown extension. I opted in my offseason sheet to do it. There's really 3 candidates for extensions this offseason for the Bengals. Your 2 corners, Dax and DJ, and, of course, your running back in Chase Brown. Chase Brown's Ben Baby actually released a story when we were live on Off the Bench about they had a conversation and Chase wants to get out ahead of it. I'm sure he does. He understands that it just got more expensive for the team as things went on. With Jamar Chase and, of course, T. Higgins there as well. So, it'll be fascinating to see ultimately if they make that decision to go with an extension for Chase Brown. We can make the argument, the pros and cons. We've done it. We'll continue to do it here on the show. But in this exercise, I gave him the extension. Dalton Reisner, brought him back, right? $4 million against the cap. You finally hit on a guard in free agency. That was huge. You hadn't done that at all, and for as long as I can remember, so that was a big deal for the Bengals. I would bring him back. So offensively, pretty clear. Extend Chase. I'm not going to get up in arms if he don't. Would he make a big deal out of it? I don't know. Would he hold out? I don't know. He definitely deserves an extension, right? He's under contract for next year, so you don't have to. But I think you should get in the habit of rewarding your really good players who go out there and perform like really good players in this league. And Chase Brown certainly checks off that box. So that's what I've got the Bengals doing at this point. Flipping things over to defense. I didn't cut Orlando Brown Jr., by the way. I cut 3 people. Let's talk about him here right now. Oren Burks and Cody Ford. I think we all should be in agreement that those guys should be cut. Cody Ford had an opportunity to come in and compete for the guard spot. Wasn't able to throw his name into the ring there for one of the starting guard spots. Came in out of shape. Supposedly is the swing tackle. Why do we think he's a good swing tackle? Because he didn't play last year. I'm willing to move off him. You save, what do we got here? $2.9 million against the cap. No brainer. Oren Burks. He was brought in to be kind of a special teams guy, but, given the role of the starting rookie linebackers, he should have been able to overtake one of them, considering how bad they were playing. He wasn't able to do that, and they got to rehaul that room, and that's a no-brainer to move off of Oren Burks. And then I did cut B.J. Hill. I've gone back and forth on this. With TJ Slayton or BJ Hill, you got a little bit more youth there with Slayton, so I opted to keep him and cut Hill. Wouldn't surprise me if the Bengals kept both. I thought it was a mistake when BJ signed the 3-year deal. When the Bengals signed BJ to the 3-year deal offseason, I wouldn't have done that personally. Good dude, Bengals legend, has been a part of a lot of winning. Some of those runs, right, that we talk about the Super Bowl and what have you, the following year, he was a part of that, a big part of that. Doesn't really offer any interior pass rush. Unfortunately, none of the guys I signed really do for much reason either. But I made the decision to move off of B.J. Hill. So now you get to the defense, obviously, and what to do at that edge spot. And edge rush is king. Duke Tobin said that. And it kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit because we said the same things last offseason, and your response was, let's draft Shamar Stewart. As much as we bang on Shamar Stewart, as much as I say that I'm out on Shamar Stewart, you picked him at 17. He played 1 year, and he didn't play a ton of games because of injury. The team's not going to quit on him. He's going to be on this team, and he's going to have an opportunity to have a huge role. But I do think they need to bring in a free agent, right? regardless of how the draft transpires. And the guy that I put down is Draymond Jones. $11 million against the cap is what Paul Dehner Jr. predicts. Been a bit of a journeyman. Played last year at Baltimore, gave Joe Burrow some fits in that game. He's an Ohio State guy. He's got versatility with where you can line him up, which I think fits in very nicely with that what Al Golden is trying to do, kind of similar to Sal Stewart in ways that you can put him basically anywhere along the defensive line. Al Golden likes that versatility. You got to bring in somebody from the outside. You need a veteran that's been around the block that you can get some production from. He's not a Jalen Phillips level guy. That's going to be the number one edge rusher, not named Trey Hendrickson this cycle. And number 2, probably be Odafe Owe, who, of course, spent a lot of time in Baltimore this past year with the other hardball in Los Angeles. Probably going to cost too much for Cincinnati, in my opinion. So I went with Draymond Jones from the Baltimore Ravens as your kind of lead pass rusher. And that allows Myles Murphy to kind of fall back into a 2. We were really pleased with what we saw from Myles Murphy last year. Needs to continue to take steps in the right direction. But I think if you go in as, Myles Murphy's our 1. Don't love that. So I think you got to bring in another veteran. I've got Shamar Stewart at that edge rushing 3 spot, which, by the way, I ended up drafting an edge rusher too, which we'll get to the draft picks here in a second. But Cedric Johnson is a guy that played really well. And actually, I would argue, besides Myles Murphy, he was the best edge rusher last year. And 6th-round pick out of Ole Miss a couple of years ago. He's still going to be under contract. So, in a perfect world, he's not playing over Shamar Stewart, right? But you feel pretty good about what you have in Cedric Johnson, in my opinion. Now you get to the interior, and I said this yesterday. This is going to be fascinating to see how the Bengals attack this. Because from an interior perspective in the draft, not very good. In free agency, not very good. What you have on your roster, not very good. So the Bengals have their work cut out for them, and Jerry Montgomery and Al Golden have their work cut out for them as well. I had the Bengals bringing in 2 free agents along the interior of the defense, one of which is DJ Reader. And, fans, I'm obviously a fan of the Bengals, kind of fall back into this of like, well, this guy was really good here and he left. Let's bring him back, right? We did it with Von Bell. We were all excited. And then Von Bell is like, he's washed. He can't play anymore. DJ Reader's not washed. Is he going to – he never provided pass rush from the interior. He was a run stopper. Slayton and Hill weren't able to do a good enough job of that last year. You could argue that they didn't have enough competence around them at linebacker and edge, and that could have impacted them as well. But I think you need 2 new bodies in there. Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson, are they going to take year 3 leaps like Myles Murphy did? In a perfect world, yeah, but – I don't know if you really can predict that or foresee that. It doesn't seem like that's something that will be happening if we're being completely honest. So I got Reader back. I don't love it, right? I'm not banging the table. Bring back DJ Reader. I'm also not going to sit here and lie and say I went through all the tape on DJ Reader last year. But the key for me here is leadership. DJ Reader was a leader of that Bengals defense for a long time. And I feel confident that if he comes back, maybe the play isn't elite. Maybe the play isn't where it was, but the leadership will be. And the defense needs leaders, and Duke Tobin talked about that during his press conference. So I went with DJ Reader. Also went with Logan Hall at $6 million against the cap. He was with Tampa. He can provide a little bit of interior pass rush. I like the pressures that I saw from him. I think he's got a lot to offer, so I'm intrigued by Logan Hall. That's a name to keep an eye on. Team-friendly deal. You're going to have to pay some money. Again, Dana predicts $6 million. So I would go out and get 2 free agents there along the interior defensive line and try to stabilize that a little bit because you can't just say, McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins are all of a sudden going to become good players. Myles Murphy at least was a first-round pick. And I know Jenkins was a second-round pick, but he hasn't flashed enough, in my opinion. So I'm bringing in 2 new DTs. Slayton would then be your 3rd, which if he's your 2nd or 3rd, then you feel better about that, right? Linebacker. Got to rehaul this room as well. There shouldn't be a world where Barrett Carter is out playing meaningful football for you if somebody is not hurt, right? It just can't happen. They're going to give Demetrius Knight a bit of a longer leash. He got better as the year went on. I'm a little bit more optimistic about him. But you got to bring in a free agent. Caden Ellis is a name that I really like. Had a great year for Atlanta. $8 million is what Dana predicts. Bring him in here. He's versatile, and he's a great tackler, right? And he's got good eye discipline. Bringing in Caden Ellis, to me, that might be my favorite move, apart from drafting Caleb Downs. We'll talk about that in a second. But that might be my favorite move here. And then, speaking of drafting, Jacob Rodriguez, best linebacker in college football this past year out of Texas Tech. They're projecting 3rd, 4th-round pick. You feel a heck of a lot better with him coming in than you do with either one of the guys you have in place. So I bring in Ellis, I draft Rodriguez, then Knight your third. Kind of where I'm at from a linebacker spot. Now you get to DB and the extensions. I'm really torn on this. It probably makes more sense to extend Dax because he's been here for an extra year, and obviously this is the fifth-year option. You don't need to extend DJ. And I understand. I just made the point with Chase Brown. You want to reward good players. Well, Chase Brown's pretty much been good since he stepped on the field. G.J. Turner's gotten benched multiple times. Now, he looked like one of the best corners in football last year, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals said, you know what, we want to see another year of you, DJ, before we give you an extension. So I actually have, in my list here, I've gone back and forth with this, I have the Bengals extending Turner and not extending Dax, but don't be surprised if that's flipped. Right? I think there's a world. Again, DJ was great last year. Well, let's look at the previous years. This was a second-round pick. It took them a little bit longer. So I got them extending Turner. I don't think it'd be the end of the world if they went Dax instead of Turner, and I'm fine with them extending both, to be honest with you. But your corners are set, and then you get to this slot. And this new position is kind of coming up. Daner has it listed as slot/safety, big nickel, some people call it, like what Eamon Wary does for Seattle, and I cringe every time I bring up his name because he should be a Cincinnati Bengal. We were saying that last year. Obviously, he is not. And I've got D'Angelo Pons inserted here at this spot. Now, I know I just said big nickel, so maybe that doesn't really fit. He's like 5'9", 170. He's a small guy, but to me, he could be that next Mike Hilton for you. Jalen Davis is obviously an option. Dana projects about $2.5 million against the cap. When he started playing last year, defense got better. Zach loves him. Wouldn't be surprised if he was back. But D'Angelo Pons projects he can go in the third or fourth round. Again, the size of him is the only reason why. Like, if he was a few inches taller, he would be a first-round pick. If you watched Indiana at all, you know how much of a dog this guy is. Hung right in there with Jeremiah Smith. Was great against Miami. Great in the game before that as well. Great against Alabama. He's a terrific player, big-time player. Huge get for Cignetti. But, some people might look at this and say, well, you drafted Downs, Rodriguez, and Pons. You just watched the college football playoff. These are really good players, and these are guys that I feel confident that could come in and have an immediate impact, which is what Cincinnati needs, which is what we said last year, and they weren't able to do it. So I've got Pons there at that spot, the last corner being Josh Newton. Again, as a backup, you feel okay with Fig Newton going out there, but if he has to, take over as a starter, you don't. But he's a serviceable player. And then at safeties, Caleb Downs and Jordan Battle is where I'm at here. I think the Bengals, I'd be shocked if Jordan Battle wasn't a starter for this team next year. And I don't think there's anybody better to pair him with than Caleb Downs, if I'm being completely honest with you. And then rolling through the draft picks, you just had 4 in this exercise from Daner. I went Downs at 1, and then I went Dunker, the tackle out of Iowa, in the second round. The Bengals, this is a sneaky need for the Bengals because it's more of a 2027 issue as opposed to a 2026 issue. But I'm looking at this draft, not in the first round, and I might even be crazy for doing it in the second round, but I really like this kid out of Iowa. Third, fourth, and I'm okay with second. Tackle's got to be a consideration because OBJ, I wouldn't cut him. This would be his last year, and then you're looking at your next tackle of the future. Right, so I've got an eye on the kid from Iowa, but he's probably going to go in the second round. But sneaky need for the Bengals to address. Third round, I got Rodriguez, the linebacker out of Tech. Fourth round, I got Pons, the corner out of Indiana. Now, lastly, there's an option here on this exercise. There was 2 other additional options. We'll talk about the Burrow restructure in a second. The other, of course, is a tag and trade for Trey Hendrickson. In my final draft, I had them doing it, which, everybody can go ahead and laugh right now because that would kind of be surprising if Cincinnati did this because that doesn't seem very Bengal-like. But the reason I did it is because when you look at these free agents, you could make the argument that the Bengals have 2 of the best free agents on the market, and I think they have the best free agent in the market in Trey Hendrickson, right? Somebody could give you a pick for Trey Hendrickson if you do a little tag and trade action. Again, it would be surprising if the Bengals did that. And the other guy, of course, is Joseph Osai, who I wouldn't bring back. But I think there's a lot of teams that value Trey Hendrickson. Value him as much as they did last year? No. But value him to the point where they'd be willing to give up a pick in order to get him? Yeah. So I had the Bengals exercising the tag and trade in this little experiment here, but I wouldn't bank on that happening. Also, the Burrow restructure. Did a little bit of research on this there as well. Burrow would be open to it. He said that last offseason. The question for the Bengals is, do we do this now? Is this our time to go out there and get another player and we move this around for Joe Burrow? Could free up $12, $14 million of cap space. Could get a really good player for that amount of money. Burrow, again, is open to it. In my final draft, the exercise, I have them not doing it because I'm trying to be a little bit predictive as well. Like, I want this to be as realistic as possible, and I opted not to do it. I think the Bengals should heavily consider it, especially when you look at how this division has shaken out. I mean, there's no guarantee that Baltimore and Pittsburgh are going to be serviceable next year, and obviously we know about Cleveland. But, you know, we were joking about Zach Taylor, but, like, do you feel like he's the best coach in the AFC North? Some people might say no, it's Minter or McCarthy, but I can tell you this, I feel a heck of a lot better now than I did when it was Tomlin, Harbaugh, and Stefanski. So it's shaping up for a solid end. Also, you're getting a third-place schedule. Your schedule's not going to be that difficult. Burrow, I mean, obviously you're rolling the dice with his health. Chase coming off another incredible year. Higgins as well. Shove all the chips on the table. Go all in. I would be open to doing the restructure now. We'll see if they push that off later down the line. But I didn't do it in this exercise. It could open up a heck of a lot more money to bring in another player. But kind of wanted to roll through that a little bit here on the show, and that's kind of our final draft. I posted that on Twitter, by the way. Follow me at StoneShields_. Get in the comments. Let me know what you think. Again, it's not perfect, right? I don't love the Reader thing. Like, I'm just looking like, okay, we need to bring in a defensive tackle. None of these guys are great. Why not bring the guy that's been here and you know is going to be a good leader, right? The draft, you know, if you don't get an interior guy early, and that's why Peter Woods has been linked to the Bengals for so long, is because, like, he's like the best interior guy, supposedly, and the Bengals obviously need help there. But, like, you're going to find it's going to be tough to find one as you go forward. And the point I made on Off the Bench is these drafts, as we continue to go on, like top to bottom, this isn't a great draft. There's a lot of high-level talent. There always will be high-level talent. But these days in college football, would you rather go to Wake Forest and sign a $1 million deal or put your name in the draft where you're going to get picked in the 5th or 6th round and then could be cut and not even make the team? Like, I'm going to Wake Forest for $1 million. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of the nature of where things are at. That's why you have to hit your first-round picks. That's why the Shamar Stewart pick is such an abomination for the Bengals. But they have some opportunity in the first round to get an elite player. They can't mess it up. They can't mess it up. That's what it boils down to. And, you know, I think for me, and maybe this isn't the best logic in the world, but I've said this, do you want to keep players that aren't good, that have proven to not be good, or do you want to bring in other players that maybe haven't been great, but they're new at least? Like, I'm kind of on that side, honestly. Like, is there a guarantee that Reader's going to come in and be who he was? No, but I feel a heck of a lot better about him being better than McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins, right? And maybe even B.J. Hill to some degree. Probably B.J. Hill there as well to some degree. But that's kind of where we're at. We'll do more additions to this. This isn't a one and done. We'll make adjustments to it. It's not going to be perfect. But, again, it's on Twitter. Check it out if you haven't done so already. All right, Miami. I got a couple more minutes before we get out of here on today's show. Miami Redhawks are 21-0. And it's crazy. I'm sitting there watching the game last night, and it's just really hard to believe. I went to Miami, proud alum of Miami University, and I worked a lot of the games, did some sideline reporting stuff, did some camera operator stuff, which I have no idea why they trusted me with that. I did not. I tried my best, but I did not do a good job with that. The director would be in my ear like, you're crooked, Stone. And I'd be like, my shoulders, it's sore. It's heavy. The camera's heavy. But, yeah, I wasn't the best at that. But point being, I was at a lot of these games. Women's basketball, men's basketball, some football obviously there as well. And oftentimes, like when they played OU, like they would fill that out decently. I'm talking about the men's basketball team against OU, that would get a decent turnout. But for the most part, for a lot of these games, there would be more people on the benches and in press row than in the stands. And candidly, it really wasn't close. And you could hear every little thing. Like when a coach was barking out a play, you could hear it clear as day. Like the people just did not care at all. And I'm watching the game last night, and apparently it sold out. Looked like it was basically a sellout. Had a buddy there. He was like, it was so loud, he couldn't believe it either. He went to Miami as well. And, you know, it's an exciting team to watch. They shoot a lot of threes. When they go in, they go crazy. A couple of dunks in the game there as well. The student section was filled out. The dive teams and Speedos, which I question that decision-making a little bit, but at least they're at the game, right, turning up. And just hearing a crowd pop through a television set at Millett Hall is just bizarre for a guy like me who's been around the university and been around the program for a really long time. And it's pretty awesome to see. It really is. And they didn't make it easy, right? They were losing for much of the game, but they hung in there. They were resilient. They were without – two of their best players aren't playing. Pissarro, of course, has been out with the knee, and he's going to be out. And then Skowjak, their point guard, he was out there as well. And then you got freshmen out there. Perry's getting some more minutes. Kirby played well in the game, did foul the three-point shooter there at the end, which isn't ideal, but he's a freshman out there. And you got Suter, who's your captain, probably your best player, but he's a 2, and they're asking him to bring the ball up and be the 1 in the game. And I thought he adjusted nicely to that there as well. So just really impressed what they've been able to do. Hung in there. It hasn't been easy for them. They've been down and out multiple times, and they just keep fighting and keep finding a way. And I hope the student body can continue to support the team, and hopefully this can continue because there's 10 more games left. I would imagine about half of them are at home, and then hopefully a MAC tournament run. But a lot of reason to be excited in Oxford. This team's ranked. Like, I'm watching them on TV, and there's a 24 next to their name. It's just like that is just absolutely bizarre. The job that Travis Steele has done, the team that he has put together. Got to give David Saylor a lot of credit. When Xavier kind of cast Travis Steele aside and was like, this guy, had a great opportunity and wasn't able to execute, Saylor picked up the phone and he's like, that's my guy. I want him. And Steele had a job immediately. And they could have, went this thing the wrong way. They could have been impatient. Steele could have said, give me all this money. We're going at the portal, right? And we're going all in here on year 1. No, it was a slow bake for Miami. This is, year 3 now? No, year 4? For Travis Steele, obviously went on a run and were a second away from making the tournament last year in the MAC title game. But it was a slow bake. They've not drafted. They've recruited. They've developed. And, they've gone out and gotten some guys there as well. Travis Steele told the story to Mo Egger, I think, earlier in the week about how they got Suter, which Travis Steele had drove like 80 miles to recruit some kid. Got him to commit. He's driving back. Then he just found out Suter was in the portal. They called the kid that just committed and was like, never mind, before they even talked to Suter. He's able to land Suter, and then he's able to keep Suter after the year that they had last year. And just pretty awesome. Pretty awesome what they've been able to accomplish. And, they got a lot more work to do. They can't, unfortunately, playing in the MAC, like they can't have a couple game stretch where they just don't have it. And, hopefully they can get Skowjak back. That certainly will help. But they're not really in a spot where they can stub their toe. I think they're at the point now where they could lose a game and still, get in, right? I don't think they necessarily have to run the table now, especially 24. And if they win on Saturday and some of these other teams lose, wouldn't surprise me if they got to that 21-22 range there as well. But thinking about going to the game Saturday, I was trying to get tickets, and it's like, you got to pay $70 to get into Millett Hall, which is pretty crazy. But it's awesome at the same time. And as an alum, it really does fire you up. And so much credit to Travis Steele. Had him on the show when they were like 4-0, 5-0, something like that. And we're going to try to get him back on the show and have more of a conversation with him. But he's doing the rounds. Like he was on the Barstool Show on FS1. Obviously, Mo and Lance are getting him on the radio. And he's been on some national shows there as well. Our good friend Paul Frischner at the Rundown, he's had him on multiple times. So pretty awesome what he's been able to accomplish. Obviously, in the back of your head, you're sitting there going, oh, like, is this his final year as the head coach of the Redhawks? I don't know. If they go on a run and make the tournament and win a tournament game, like this day and age of college sports, not as much in basketball as it is in football, but a top-of-the-line job is going to come open, and he's going to be a top candidate. So I don't know how much they can up his salary at Miami, how creative they can get there. Unfortunately, it's kind of a stepping stone, kind of a school, right? When you play in the MAC, not just talking about Miami, but all schools in the MAC, right? If a Power 4 school comes calling and you're in the MAC, you're probably going to leave. He's made a lot of money throughout his career. Would that make him want to stay? I know he loves it in Oxford. Reid said he just moved out there. So I don't know. It's in the back of your mind, but enjoy it while it's here because there's still 10 more regular season games, then hopefully a tournament run there as well, and hopefully a March Madness game. And I might have to get to wherever they're at if they're playing in the Big Dance because regardless of what happens over the next 10 games and in the MAC tournament, this team can win with as potent as they are offensively, as well coached as they are, as tough as they are, right? There were some rebounding questions certainly last night, but they're a tough group. They faced a lot of adversity. They absolutely could win a tournament game. And, I if you say that a couple weeks ago, people laugh at you. I don't think people can laugh at you now if you say that as it relates to the Miami Redhawks. A couple more minutes. We will save the Belichick stuff for tomorrow. But I do want to mention this with Joe Brady real quickly. He's hired as the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills, and you go through these hires, I don't really think there's been one where it's like, what are they doing? Right? So obviously, the Giants hit it out of the park with Harbaugh. I really think the Dolphins hit it out of the park with Halfley. I really think the world of him. I think he's going to have some success there, but it's Miami. He's up against it. He's got, the Tua contract. He's got to maneuver around. Tough division, right, with the Patriots and the Bills, so it's going to be difficult for him, but I like that hire. McCarthy, we make fun of it. Oh, what are you doing, Pittsburgh? Like, just wave the white towel. Or the white flag or the yellow towel, I guess, and just kind of have a bad year. And the ownership came out and was like, no, we're not doing that. So you get McCarthy. I don't understand why people talk about Mike McCarthy like he's a plumber, right? I mean, if you do a blind resume, and maybe we'll do this tomorrow, and you compare John Harbaugh's career and Mike McCarthy's career, they're basically identical. Lots of wins, lots of postseason appearances, some varying levels of success in the postseason, one Super Bowl appearance, one Super Bowl win. Like, they are very similar. And when Harbaugh, was available, everybody, myself included, was like, oh, my goodness, go get John Harbaugh if you're one of these teams that have an opening. And then Mike McCarthy, who's about the same age, he's 62 years of age, like, he was not getting hired if the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't hire him. Like, that was the only team. I know he interviewed with Tennessee, but that was the only team that had any interest. And, I do think it's better for the Bengals that McCarthy's there than Tomlin, but let's not act like this guy is a bum, because I don't know why the narrative is always like that around him. But anyway, back to the Joe Brady stuff. To me, out of all the hirings, this one makes the least sense to me. Clearly they are kind of a dysfunctional operation, and I think Josh Allen and a lot of ways Sean McDermott have kind of hidden that a little bit. I think there's some Bengal tendencies in what they do. I think you can make the argument that Bengals actually might be a little bit more buttoned up than Buffalo, as crazy as that is to say out loud. But you hear the Pagula press conference, the owner, and you're like, dude, get this dude away from the microphone. Like, what is he saying? And then you got the stuff with the GM, and I've gone back and forth on Bean, but it seems like he's got just a ton of power here, like as much power as, these GMs have varying degrees of power. Joe Shane, of course, in New York, it's like, yeah, you get to keep your job, but you're not really calling the shots here anymore in New York. Whereas a guy like Howie Roseman, he's got all the control. Veach, certainly, and those owners have a lot of control. Obviously, the owners have the say at the end of the day, but they have a lot of control. But they have Super Bowls, they have hardware, right? And Bean, he drafted Josh Allen, which he deserves a ton of credit for drafting Josh Allen from Wyoming, and he didn't even win at Wyoming. But I don't know, like a couple of reasons why. Pagula, the owner, when he was addressing the media, one of his main points was that, we want to kind of a fresh start. We've had a lot of heartbreak around here, a lot of postseason heartbreak. We want to bring someone that wasn't really attached to that. Well, Joe Brady's been a part of this thing for several years, and he's been a part of this heartbreak, and you're just going to promote him. That's number one. Number two, the Keon Coleman thing, which made its rounds, which is just crazy. How a guy that was still on your roster, Pagula, interrupts and is like, people want to give Bean all the responsibility for that. That was the coaching staff that was pushing for him. Who's the offensive coordinator at the time? Joe Brady, right? You think McDermott, a defensive guy, was pushing for a receiver? No, the guy that was pushing for him is the guy you just promoted to be your head coach. So it's a head-scratching move to me. Apparently, Josh Allen was involved in the process. How much say did he have in the coach? I don't know. But I don't know. I think Buffalo was like, we want to make a change. We're firing McDermott. And then they looked around and were like, well, Tomlin, he doesn't want to coach. Harbaugh's already with the Giants. Minter's gone. Halfley's gone. Oh, shit, what are we going to do? Who's our next? I guess we just got to promote Joe Brady. So it just seems very disorganized, very chaotic. And, again, good news for the Bengals, right? I mean, should be the Buffalo Bills each and every year should be a top 2 or 3 team in the AFC and have a chance to win a Super Bowl every single year with Josh Allen. I don't know. Now, this thing might work great for Brady, but no head coaching experience. And he's obviously going to still call the plays, but then there's a lot of people out of Buffalo halfway through the year that are like, is Joe Brady the right guy to run our offense? So, I don't know. That was a head-scratching decision for me. We'll see ultimately how it works out. Appreciate Freddy Benavides for joining us, Reds bench coach, field coordinator. That interview will be out on YouTube later today. Check it out in podcast form as well. Big thanks to Freddy. Got a couple more guests on Thursday and Friday this week. Redhawks 21-0, back in action on Saturday against Northern Illinois at Millett Hall. But appreciate everyone, as always, for making some time here on the show. Got my boy AG in the chat. What up, AG? But appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will be back here on Thursday. Until then, take care, everybody.